The cafeteria was always loud, voices rising over clattering trays, laughter cutting across the room like sharp glass, and the steady hum of gossip that floated in the air thicker than the smell of reheated pizza. But today, Liam noticed a different kind of silence, one that sat heavy in the far corner of the room. She was there again, the new girl. She sat alone at a table, hunched over with her lunch tray untouched. Her long dark hair slipped forward like a curtain, hiding her expression from the curious stares of everyone else. Liam had seen her before in the hallways, moving like a shadow through the crowd, head down, boots striking hard against the linoleum floors, leather jacket zipped up even though it wasn't cold. She didn't talk much. Actually, she didn't talk at all. And people didn't like mysteries. They turned mysteries into targets. "That's Angel's kid," Liam heard someone say from 2 tables away. "A boy with too much confidence and not enough sense. Her dad's some psycho biker. Bet she's in a gang too." Another laughed. "Figures. Look at her. Total freak." Liam shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He wasn't the type to pick fights, but there was something about the way the comments buzzed around her, like flies circling something helpless, that made him clench his fists under the table. By the second week of her being there, it wasn't just whispers anymore. It started in the hallway. Liam was at his locker, swapping books, when he heard the commotion. A group of 3 boys stood in front of the girl, Riley, that was her name, though most just called her, new girl, or worse. One of them, tall with a smirk that always spelled trouble, blocked her way. "Nice boots," he sneered. "What did you do, steal him from a dead biker?" His friends laughed like it was the cleverest thing in the world. Riley didn't respond. She just kept her head low, trying to step past. That was her mistake. The second boy stuck his foot out, tripping her. Her books flew from her arms, scattering across the floor in a messy pile of papers. The laughter got louder. "What's the matter? Too tough to say something?" the tall one teased, leaning closer. "Or is daddy gonna roll up on his bike and fight your battles for you?" Liam froze. His heart hammered in his chest, and for a second he thought about turning away. He wasn't strong, not popular, not the kind of guy who could throw a punch and win. But something inside him twisted, anger, maybe, or shame. He hated the way everyone else pretended not to see, eyes locked to the floor as if ignoring it would make it go away. Before he could stop himself, his feet moved. "Hey," he called out, voice cracking slightly but louder than he expected. "Leave her alone." The 3 bullies turned. The tallest one narrowed his eyes, then burst out laughing. "Oh, this is Rich. Little Liam's gonna save the day." The others snickered. "What are you gonna do, man? Quote Shakespeare at us? You barely talk to anyone." Liam's throat tightened, but he forced himself to keep going. He bent down, picked up Riley's papers, and stacked them together. His hands shook as he held them out to her. "She doesn't deserve this," he said quietly, but firmly enough to carry. "Find something better to do." For a moment, silence. Just the kind that stretches too long, where anything could happen. The bullies shifted, clearly not expecting anyone to step in. Then one muttered something under his breath, rolled his eyes, and shoved his friend lightly. "Come on. Not worth it." They walked away, throwing one last glare over their shoulders. The laughter had died, but the whispers were back, spreading like wildfire. Liam handed Riley her papers. She looked at him for the first time, really looked at him. Her eyes were sharp, guarded, like a knife honed too many times. But beneath the edge was something else. Surprise. And maybe, just maybe, a flicker of gratitude. "Thanks," she said, her voice so soft he almost missed it. He swallowed and tried to smile, though his face felt hot. "I'm Liam." She hesitated, then gave a short nod. "Riley." The bell rang, breaking the moment. She turned and walked away, shoulders still stiff, but he noticed the way she held her head a little higher now. That night, Liam lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He should have felt proud, but instead, his mind spun with restless thoughts. What if the rumors were true? What if her dad really was part of the Hells Angels? He'd seen shows, read articles, heard all the stories, outlaw bikers, bar fights, police raids. People didn't mess with them. And he had just inserted himself into their orbit. His mom knocked softly on the door, peeking in. "You okay, honey?" "Yeah," he lied, forcing a smile. But after she left, the doubt returned. His stomach twisted as he imagined rows of motorcycles pulling up outside his school, rough men with leather jackets and steel in their eyes demanding to know who had messed with Riley, or worse, who had tried to help her. He turned on his side, pulling the blanket tighter. What if he had made the biggest mistake of his life? He barely slept, every creak of the house making him flinch. When his alarm went off the next morning, he dragged himself out of bed, his body heavy with dread. The day stretched ahead of him like a storm waiting to break. And he had no idea just how loud that storm was about to be. The morning felt strange before anything even happened. The sky was cloudless, but the air carried a heaviness that Liam couldn't shake. His walk to school felt longer, his backpack heavier, every sound sharper. He thought maybe it was just his nerves from what had happened the day before. When he reached the schoolyard, things seemed normal at first. Students clustered in their usual spots, some near the fence trading gossip, others crowding the steps. But then it started. A sound. It was faint at first, like a growl far in the distance. Then it grew. Louder. Deeper. The kind of rumble you didn't just hear, you felt it in your chest, rattling through your ribs. Heads began to turn. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the birds on the wires scattered into the sky. Engines. Dozens of them. The roar built until it swallowed the entire street. Around the corner they came, motorcycles, lined in perfect formation, chrome flashing under the sunlight. Black leather jackets, patches sewn with symbols that carried weight, skulls, wings, flames. The emblem stood out most of all, stitched bold across their backs, the unmistakable Hell's Angels. They didn't just ride in, they took over. The parking lot filled with bikes as they circled, each rider easing into a spot with practiced precision. Engines revved like growls from some mechanical beast, drowning out every other sound. Students froze where they stood, eyes wide. Teachers peeked through windows, panic etched across their faces. The principal stumbled out the front doors, coffee forgotten, his mouth hanging open. At the center of the group was a massive man on a black Harley, chrome handlebars high and wide. His beard was streaked with gray, his arms tattooed from wrist to shoulder, muscles bulging under his cut-off vest. He swung off the bike, boots slamming against the pavement like thunder. He didn't need to say who he was. Everyone knew. Riley's father. Riley, who had been standing on the steps, finally moved. For the first time since anyone had seen her at school, her guarded expression cracked. She ran straight to him. He bent down, wrapping his huge arms around her, pressing his forehead to hers in a gesture that spoke louder than words. For that moment, she wasn't the mysterious outcast. She was just a daughter, safe with her father. But then his eyes lifted. Searching. And they landed on Liam. Liam's stomach dropped. His legs went weak, and for a split second he thought he might collapse under the weight of that stare. The man's eyes were piercing, dark, carrying years of things Liam couldn't begin to imagine. Every step he took toward Liam felt like a drumbeat, the crowd parting in silence. "You," the man rumbled, voice deep and gravelly, like it had been carved from stone. Liam's mouth went dry. His heart thudded so loud it drowned out his thoughts. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a stammer. "Why yeah." The man stopped in front of him, towering over him. He looked him up and down, studying him like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Then he spoke again. "You stood up for my girl yesterday." The entire school held its breath. Liam swallowed hard. His knees threatened to buckle, but he forced himself to nod. "Yeah, I couldn't just watch." The silence stretched unbearably. The man's face was unreadable, carved from granite. And then, unexpectedly, it broke. A smile. Slow at first, then wide, almost proud. "You've got guts, kid," he said, his voice booming across the lot. Most would have looked away. Not you. Before Liam could react, the man clapped a massive hand on his shoulder, nearly knocking the wind out of him. The weight of it was both terrifying and comforting. Around them, the other bikers roared in approval, some revving their engines so loud the ground seemed to shake. "This boy," Riley's father declared, turning to face the crowd, "has more backbone than the rest of you put together." The sound that followed was deafening, cheers, laughter, the growl of engines revving in unison. Liam stood frozen, his face burning, his heart racing. Riley watched from the steps, a faint smile tugging at her lips, her eyes brighter than he'd ever seen. The message was clear. From that day forward, Liam wasn't just some kid in the background. He was the boy who had stood up for Riley. The boy the Hells Angels themselves had honored. And everyone else got the point. The bullying stopped immediately. Nobody so much as whispered about Riley again, not unless they wanted the memory of that parking lot burned into their minds. Even the loudest troublemakers avoided her in the halls. And Liam, quiet, ordinary Liam, suddenly carried an invisible shield. It wasn't that people treated him like a king. It was subtler than that. Doors opened for him. Jokes weren't made at his expense. His name, once forgettable, now carried weight. The respect wasn't out of fear of him, but out of who now stood behind him. For Riley, things changed too. She started sitting at his table during lunch, her walls slowly lowering. She wasn't instantly warm or bubbly. Riley wasn't that kind of person, but there was trust there now. She shared little pieces of herself, stories of the towns she'd lived in, the long nights hearing engines echo through her windows, the strange mix of danger and family that came with being a biker's daughter. One afternoon, when it was just the two of them under a tree outside, she said quietly, "You didn't have to do what you did. But you did. Nobody ever does that for me." Liam shrugged, embarrassed. "I just couldn't let them treat you like that." She smiled, small but real. "That means more than you know." Word of the incident spread beyond the school. Parents complained to the principal, calling it intimidation. But even he admitted quietly that the bikers hadn't caused trouble, they'd just made a statement. And deep down, everyone knew the truth: the bullies had been silenced. By something greater than fear. They'd been silenced by loyalty, the kind Liam had shown Riley when nobody else did. The bikes didn't come back every day. They didn't have to. That one moment, that flood of chrome and thunder, was enough to change everything. And though Liam never asked for it, he had gained something rare. A friend. A protector. And, in an unspoken way, the respect of a brotherhood that roared louder than fear itself. Walking past the parking lot weeks later, Liam sometimes swore he could still hear the echo of those engines. And whenever he caught Riley's glance across the cafeteria, a knowing look would pass between them. They both understood something the rest of the school would never forget. Sometimes it only takes one moment of courage to change everything. And one boy's decision to stand up had made him part of something far bigger than himself.